respected Principal Professor Lokul, Professor Donde, Advocates Jain and Advocate Prabhu Desai, Shri Chitle and friends and colleagues who are here today. And it is for me quite an honor and privilege to be here after a gap of nearly 40 years. The last time I was here was 19th of August 1986 at the inauguration of the Cipla Ruia Drug Monitoring Laboratory. The person whom I vividly remember was my close friend, Dr. R.T. Sane, who later became the principal of Ruia College. At that time, it was truly a pioneering venture that Ruia and Cipla put together. And it was a venture between academia and industry. It was the first institute of its kind in India, and I think something that all of us here should be proud of as what we did in those days to set up a drug monitoring laboratory, which ultimately led to what the professor just said, bioequivalence and biosimilarity of drugs, because today India is one of the leading countries of the world supplying generic drugs to the world. And one of the things that perhaps some of you don't know, that 40% of all the medications used in America today, the origin is India. At that time, what we did in 1986 was an expression of our joint commitment, a joint commitment between Ruia and Cipla in self-reliance, self-sufficiency, and the promotion of indigenous research and development. Now, to digress, I don't know, I didn't know what to say, but I would just spend a few minutes that I have been involved in the pharmaceutical industry since 1960. And during the period of 65 years today, our main contribution has been the adaptation in the service of society and mankind. You will all be interested to know as to how much Cipla has depended upon Ruia College for its scientific staff over the years. And I think the backbone of Cipla today has been the scientists that we have picked up in Cipla from your college. An Indian philosopher, Swami Vivekananda, once said that wisdom lies not in the amount of knowledge acquired, but in the degree of its application. The application of one's knowledge, specifically in areas where one has expertise, is essential to contribute in the betterment of society. And this is something I would like to preach to some of the students who are here, that please follow this principle of Swami Vivekananda. Now, to tell you a little about pharmaceutical industry in which I am involved, it is different from other industries. It combines business acumen with a humanitarian responsibility. We are the custodians of healthcare and are responsible for the welfare and treatment of patients to overcome disease and lead a normal, good quality of life. Two major factors essentially control the pharma industry. One is monopoly, arising out of intellectual property rights. And secondly, the high rate of obsolescence. So the two words important to remember is monopoly and obsolescence. New drugs come in, grow, and then ultimately they die and are replaced by other drugs. So with that in mind, newer medicines have to be consistently invented to enable long-term progress, sustainability, and stability of the industry. And this is an area where industry should combine with academia to see that newer drugs are ultimately given for the benefit of society. Now, one of the foundations of the pharmaceutical industry is the availability of active pharmaceutical ingredients, commonly known as APIs. Now, unless you have the raw materials, how do you produce the end products? So the foundation of the industry is who manufactures and supplies the raw materials that go into the final products. And unfortunately, in this area, India has been weak. And in my early involvement in Cipla, one of the first things we did was try and develop the manufacture of raw materials. And this type of research that we did for the availability, I have coined as repurposing and repositioning. I'm not out here to create a new wheel. What I think is what we already have. How do we innovate and improve further? And this is something I would advise my colleagues among the students here, is to follow a path that you can contribute to society by incremental innovation. And that is vital for producing products and processes that are already known. How do we improve what is already known? So this should be one aspect of an institution like Ruia. I'm not saying not to do fundamental conceptual research. Do both, but do also what the country like ours require. Now, in this area of applied research, I would like to suggest to the college here that you should look at prodrugs, metabolites, chiral drugs, liposomal drugs, co-crystalline drugs, newer polymorphs of existing drugs, nanoparticles, enhancers and boosters that can lead to improved efficacy, drug combinations, newer devices, newer routes of administration of drugs and delivery systems, which I classify as appropriate technology, which is scientifically sound and need-based for our country. I think that attitude has to be inculcated in us. What is need-based for India? And this is something that we started way back in Cipla. When I joined Cipla many years ago, there was virtually no API manufacture. We were totally dependent on imports. And see the situation today, that I'm delighted to inform all of you of the massive change that India has undergone. That today we are the pharmacy center of the world, which we were never. We were with a begging bowl in the early part of the century. Now, looking at the industry today, the main issues in healthcare: antimicrobial resistance, resistant TB, widespread cancer, HIV/AIDS, malaria. And this is apart from pandemics like COVID-19, which we recently had. Now, these are being tackled at all levels, by the government, by industry, by universities, and the medical profession. Now, at my age, what should be my role in the future? I'm a firm believer that if one is sound of mind, one should contribute and continue to contribute to society as best possible. So there are 5 new technologies that are already revolutionizing the pharma industry. One is 3D, artificial intelligence, digitalization, automation, flow chemistry, and continuous pharmaceutical manufacture. And now for some time now also, which I told the professor earlier this morning, was that medical science has been slowly shifting from chemistry to biology. And this change, for some of us not familiar with biology, is a very big problem. And I would therefore suggest to Ruia to look at this major change that the industry is undergoing and how best Ruia should adapt itself to this changing environment. And with this in mind, we therefore have to rethink jointly and redesign and rebuild a fresh approach to tackle the problems facing healthcare. Now, what does this involve? This involves newer strategies in drug therapies, biotechnology, stem cells, gene therapy, personalized medicines, and advanced diagnostics. And unless a college like Ruia, which we first started the bioequivalence testing way back in 1986, I think today, in the year 2025, we have to look much, much further ahead and take up newer issues. And this is something that standing here before you, I would request Ruia to do. Industry is here. IDMA, Mr. Patel is here. And we all in industry will cooperate fully with Ruia in this new phase which is facing us in healthcare. Now, we have to therefore create a world where every citizen can dream of a decent quality of life. Now, a few words of advice to some of the students here at the back, I think. Try and understand what differentiates people. That's very, very important. And the 2 things that I would like to mention, or few things I'd like to mention, are imagination, creativity, strategy, and most important is the word enthusiasm. If there's one word that I would suggest all of you who are students here imbibe, is the word enthusiasm. Without that, you cannot succeed in life. And this is important in the transition from academia to industry. It was raised earlier also that scientists here, like yourself, should also be fully aware of the difficult task that lies ahead of you, in particular the competition you will face in the commercial world that is ahead of you. My mantra in life has been to provide access to affordable medicines and that none should be denied medication. And towards this, we have dedicated Cipla on a continuing basis. We did that in Africa some years ago, in the early part of the century, and the pioneering effort of Cipla in the year 2000-2001, I sincerely believe that we helped save at least 10 million lives in Africa. And just to, in passing, we did that at that time by supplying medication at below $1 a day, when the prices in America were in excess of $15,000 per patient per year. And this is something today also, that there is an injection now for HIV, where 2 injections a year, where in America they are charging $44,000 for 2 injections. And the Africans want it at below $100 for HIV, AIDS. And it only costs $20 to make. So, I'm just explaining to you again and again the massive power of monopoly. If you monopolize something, you can charge what you like. And this is something that even universities should think. What can you monopolize in your processes, etc., today, where you can then command whatever price you want? So, I'm a great one for affordable medicine, and that none should be denied medication. People talk about success, and to me, success is not a destination. It is the quality of the journey. And by the grace of God, in the last 65 years, the journey that I have had has been more of success in healthcare than personal monetary success or anything else. And success overall does not lead to greatness. What really matters is one's contribution, like the Ruia Cipla partnership of 1986, the contribution to help society and improving lives of our fellow men. And on this note, I believe that for the rest of my life, I will continue the quest to help society in general, help Ruia College in the future, and institutions that will help the world and help society in healthcare. Thank you.